last year. Didn't have quite as many people. And I talked about a painting called Ice Burn, which was all about the conflict of things very hot and things very cold, and the interest that we have in describing our lives that way. And in one case it was about being put down was called a burn, and how also there's a very large tendency now for things to catch on fire because the hot temperatures are going up. And then the ice, of course, is coming, but it's also melting. So there's a lot of confusing kinds of issues that are involved with selecting natural state of earthly demise. And this is a painting called Newfoundland, but it could be called any coastline about now in the northern latitudes. And here's the two little interloping icebergs that have somehow found their way to an otherwise pretty prosaic scene. This is on a material that is used to make posters, so it's very slick. It has, it's the back side of the material. The other side has information for an exhibit on it. And it's found materials. It's just like somebody threw it out, didn't have any further use for it, and I took it. But it has a slick surface, like I'm saying, and that way you can remove paint that's already been laid on, and it creates these contrasts. And I didn't know what to do with that at first. I thought, oh, that's just a mistake. I want to cover that up. This is all about painting. It's not about revealing a surface underneath. But then it became that kind of motive. Now, my background is, as a painter, is about horizon lines. So whatever that horizon promises, in a way, the same way a writer looks at lines on a page and is promising himself, herself, that he will fill those lines with storytelling. So I grew up on the coast. I grew up on the Rhode Island coast and then later on the Chesapeake Bay. And so the horizon was always the future for me. And it's become a fallback position because this is more representational than I usually paint now. But it had such a grip on me, this sense of being able to describe this material off the surface to reveal it in sunlight or in some way establish a land mass that is facing the ocean. There's also this metaphysical idea that the ocean's going to do what it wants. There's more of it than there is land. And the land is kind of a passive aspect. So if I were a curator or a docent, I might say that the land is the passive element and the ocean is the active element, but they all seem in such serenity. Very often you get paintings of marine scenes with nothing going on except the waves are smashing, and it's a natural force. The reason I use these icebergs as kind of interloping issues is sort of the promise of things to come. And you're only seeing them in the coastline, but pretty soon they're in the sea lanes. And some are as large as Manhattan. And so that kind of image making has history in it already, because it's all we ever hear about are these extraneous situations that lie on the edge of the land masses. I like the scale of this painting. It's really to hand. I can just keep jabbing my little broken paint knife until I get the scale I want. Some of them are closer, some are further away. There's some surf breaking over here. But it didn't even start out like this. It started out like woods, and then maybe water flooding woods. I've always had this sort of fascination with these contrasts in nature. You need water to feed plants, but if there's too much water, then it floods these plants and it destroys the underlayment of the root structure, and then when it dries out, there's a landslide. So there's a constant kind of flux that's going on in nature. And to see it this way, almost a stage set, where the observer is not in the picture, but staring at it as a kind of stage set that you are imagining something is happening. There is something happening. The icebergs are getting smaller, the water temperature is rising, the seas are rising. There's more of a definition of anxiety about the issues that are brought to bear with us. And I kind of feed on that. Any questions?
It's a really fantastic painting.
Oh,
It
thanks.
is. It's really something else.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the oblique
Shout out.
issues that are bringing the celebrity of that particular prize.
Is there a history with Newfoundland that you have?
Well, I'm kind of from Scandinavian side of my family, and also the Irish English side.
Mm-hmm.
And I just tend to gravitate to the north. I've made paintings that were just called north, or toward north. And there was one book by Pat Conroy that was about a flyer who was shot down in Japan and had to make his way north into China, where there was an ally ship with the rest of the Western forces. And all he had was a knife that he found in a beat-up hut on the beach where his plane crashed. And it was not a knife that you would ask very much of. Oh, I lost my howdy-do. It was not a knife you would ask very much of. It was a dinner knife, so not even sharp, and he had to sharpen it. But it was a knife you would find in your kitchen drawer. So that identity also hangs with me, the idea of moving north with a kitchen knife. I don't know.
That
Anything
sounds like
else?
a poem.
Sounds like a poem? All right. Pleasure. Thanks.